Hello everyone, and welcome to our game of World of Warships. Today's replay is from Jimijaz, and he is in The Sims, the Tier 7 US Premium Destroyer. He is on the map Neighbors in a 3-point domination game mode. And well, each team has 3 destroyers, there is 1 carrier per team. And the enemy destroyers are all Tier 6, so I guess that's good news. Also, since he is in a division with another Sims and a carrier, he was prepared for planes, so he has his defensive fire, and from the looks of it, he is spec'd into anti-air. His anti-air has an impressive range of 7.2 kilometers. Also, he has a gun range of 15.5 kilometers, so I guess a tier 4 skill that increases his gun range and anti-air range. Now, I'm not entirely sure why he smoked here. I'm also not entirely sure why he isn't using his anti-air to help out his friendly planes. But it looks like an oversight. Now, of course, he's using his smoke currently to shoot the Normandy, but he isn't getting that many shells off, and with the long shell travel time and the shell arc, it's not an ideal engagement range anyway. Now, meanwhile, the other friendly Sims is at point A, and well, he's facing 2 destroyers down there, so he probably has to retreat. When we look at point C, we have a destroyer up there in the north who is too afraid to go into the cap circle. Now, of course, the enemy team has radar over there, but the island in the center provides some decent protection where you could just use that. The friendlies have radar as well, but the enemy destroyer is most likely just using that island to stay safe. On Jimijaz, he has a decision to make. He could try to help out at point C. He could go there and do a destroyer's job, which the other destroyer unfortunately isn't doing. Or he could go down towards A. Now, the interesting thing about A is he's in a division with the other Sims, so they can coordinate and they can hunt down the enemy destroyers. If they grab A and sink those 2 guys, it would be a huge benefit to the friendly team. Not only do they get the second capture point, they basically secure A and B in the process, because if they ignore those guys, they will just come for B. They also potentially protect the Mutsu from getting torpedoed. And I mean, even with the carrier on their side, they have some additional spotting to find those guys. So yeah, the 2 Sims should absolutely be able to sink those destroyers and grab A. And I feel like this is actually the best choice that they make at this time. Now, the north, I mean, it looks like the destroyer is finally going into the cap. And there is a large force here, they should be fine for the time being. If the 2 Sims can take A, then it doesn't really matter if they don't get C anyway. And a nice drop on 1 enemy destroyer that gives the friendlies a huge HP lead. Now the first Sims has engaged, and this Eagle is probably going down pretty soon. Meanwhile, Jimijaz is engaging the Chnevny, and the enemy is pretty screwed at this point. If he has smoke, he can try to use it as cover and escape, but basically the enemy destroyer has to run away, and that's his only option. And they almost have him, but it looks like he did deploy smoke. Now the enemy carrier is around here as well to probably defend the destroyer and provide some spotting, but the spotting isn't really helping. The enemy destroyer doesn't have any backup here. And those planes are probably just getting wrecked by 2 Sims. So, while Jimijaz is taking point A, and while I guess watching this direction, the other Sims is going around and possibly intercepting the Chnevny. And yeah, that's it for another destroyer. So while the friendlies here hunted down those 2 destroyers, unfortunately they lost like 4 ships up in the north. The remaining ships, the remaining friendlies here are retreating. They are also showing, like all the ships up here in the north are showing broadside to the enemy fleet. I have a theory why the friendly team has lost so many ships so far. Oh my. Now the enemy carrier is coming here for the destroyers, and now defensive fire is getting used. It's possible that he was coordinating his defensive fire with the other sims and that they wanted to have defensive fire going all times, so they cycled it. But yeah, it's raining planes. Now unfortunately, the other sims has gotten damaged quite a bit so far, but I mean he's a destroyer and he can still use his torpedoes and just play a little bit more passive, I suppose. Now the enemy team still has 2 Atlantas with radar. That could be an issue. But yeah, so right now the destroyers are on their way up there to engage the enemy fleet. Now we see a Scharnhorst who did nothing when they had the whole enemy team up there, and now that he is all alone, he is pushing in. That's basically the wrong way around. But yeah, I mean, he is a Scharnhorst, he is good at pushing, he is top tier, so he might just be able to take some ships with him. Or he might just get torpedoed by an Atlanta, which would be really embarrassing. Now the other sims here, he has opened up fire and he is using his smoke screen. Unfortunately, there is the radar. Atlantas have radar. Look, I think the Scharnhorst got torpedoed. But he did take an Atlanta with him, so at least there is that. Now, friendly sims here is unfortunately getting radared and got taken out. The Atlanta here is going down, but not fast enough. So, game isn't looking that great, but it could be worse. The enemy team only has 1 warship, I suppose, although they do have quite a bit more battleships. Each team still has 1 destroyer. And currently here he is just falling back into concealment, and his next step will probably trying to get some torpedoes into those battleships. Now somebody is pinging the carrier down here. That carrier is not that relevant right now. Hunting down a carrier is not in the best interest of the friendlies. What they wanna do is, well, what he wants to do is to torpedo some battleships, and the other ships here should try to defend the capture points. Now there is another drop incoming, but defensive fire is going, and at this point I feel like the enemy carrier might not have that many planes left. I mean, there is a Saipan around. I don't know how many plane kills the Saipan has. I don't know how many plane kills the other sims has, but I mean, Jimijaz has 22, so I can't see that many enemy planes still being around. Now, the Anshan is coming this way. He's probably going for A, but hunting down that destroyer seems like it could be a somewhat a futile effort, I suppose. Hunting a destroyer can't be hard if the destroyer doesn't wanna be found. So his best course of action might just be to intercept those battleships, right? There are around 4 battleships up here in the north, and they're probably coming for B. And if battleships are coming towards you and you have torpedoes, you're probably pretty happy. Now that Gneisen now looks like he might just be AFK. This would be a huge benefit for the friendlies. The friendly team is still only slightly behind by points, and they still have the majority. And this Lyon just ate a bunch of torpedoes. So, unless the friendlies throw away even more ships, they are still much in this. Now if those torpedoes, if those get the Normandy, that would be amazing, but I'm not so sure about that. Of course, he could just wait here and then ambush the Normandy when he comes around the island. He could also try to intercept that Lyon if he is going for the Saipan, and the friendlies just lost another cruiser, which is bad. Now there are 2 hits on the Normandy, so at least the damage con should be on cooldown right now. And the Normandy keeps coming this way, so he waits here. He still has his smoke ready, and his vision with the carrier could potentially provide spotting. Torpedoes are almost reloaded, so he is deploying his smoke here and preparing to intercept that battleship. Defensive fire is almost ready again as well if it should be needed. But I think even without defensive fire he will just shoot down a few planes here. Because he does have quite the insane radius with his anti-air. Now here he is waiting with his torpedoes because he isn't entirely certain what the Normandy will do. And considering the Normandy is coming this way, holding the torpedoes is definitely the right choice. He will launch those when he can make sure that they are going to hit. Also, while he is firing, his detection range is 2.8 kilometers, so he might just not want to get spotted. Which means he is holding his fire now. He is proximity spotted at 2 kilometers anyway, but if he would be shooting now, he would be spotted. So he is waiting, he is letting the Normandy come as close as possible before he goes with his torpedoes. And now he is trying to put a little bit more distance between him and the battleship. While now he can just open with his guns because he's spotted anyway, but the torpedoes are spot on. And this is one enemy dealt with. Now next he could go for the Arizona, he could go for the Lyon, or he could go for the capture point. His torpedoes are still on cooldown. In order to actually sink the Arizona, he'd have to wait for his torpedoes to reload, and I'm not sure if he wants to wait here for 30 seconds. So he might just go for C, maybe launch some torpedoes on the way. It's also possible that the friendly carrier can take care of this battleship. Now the battleship is sailing away from him, and that makes it rather hard to get torpedo hits. Now I assume the enemy damage control is on cooldown because he got hit from a torpedo from the planes, I think. Then again, there is no certainty that it caused the flooding. If he can get a fire now, and he got a fire. Well, okay, damage con wasn't on cooldown, so that's sad. Now if he can get another fire, that would be amazing, but so far RNG isn't with him. I guess the Saipan can deal with the Lyon with his next strike, or hopefully so. Now his own anti-air is quite busy shooting planes who keep him spotted, but that's not a big problem because nobody's actually engaging him right now. Now once the torpedo bombers come in, defensive fire gets rolling, and considering this quad was already heavily damaged, this might have been the last of the torpedo bombers. Friendly carrier is also here to provide some additional anti-air. And yeah, I think like this guy now is still AFK. Now there is the Kaga. Sinking the Kaga at this point won't have that much impact because he is probably out of strike craft. But it will give the friendlies points, and they definitely need points. Now he is almost capped C, but if he can sink that Kaga, it will be, well, pretty helpful in order to still turn this around. Now the Saipan is hopefully able to strike the Lyon. Then again, it looks like the Kaga still has some fighter planes and is intercepting here. And oh, it looks like he is going for the Anshan, potentially because of those fighter craft. He saw his way to the Lyon blocked, so he decided to go for the Anshan instead. If the carrier can get the Anshan, this would be extremely helpful. It would also prolong his life, probably. Now, meanwhile, Jimijaz is just pounding this Kaga. It's slow. He could launch his torpedoes, but the torpedoes are also pretty slow, and I guess he will keep them for a better target. Also, he is using armor piercing here because the enemy is burning anyway. Looks like the fire has run its course. Now also, unfortunately, the Anshan is still around, while that Saipan has managed to get rid of all offending planes. He has to rearm his strike-craft right now, and hopefully he'll get off one more strike. He's boxed in between an Anshan and a Lyon, so he's probably torpedoes coming from one way, and he got taken out. That's kind of problematic, because now the enemy has a huge lead. The enemy carrier is gone as well, but it's 1 versus 4. And the enemy has more cap zones and has more points, and there is only 3 minutes left. Now that Gneisenau here looks like he is still AFK. There's potential to farm some points by just putting torpedoes into an AFK Gneisenau, I suppose. Or maybe he can just burn him. Now, of course, shooting that Gneisenau will make him spotted for other potential targets. Now, in an ideal world, he can put some torpedoes into either the Gneisenau or the Arizona. I suspect the Arizona is coming this way. He definitely needs to sink something soon, right? I mean, the enemy is at 900 points, so he has 100 points until the enemy team wins. Stop that, he needs to sink their ships. Of course, there is also only 2 minutes left, so I'm not even sure if it's possible for him to win at this point. He would have to probably sink 3 enemy ships. And that's going to be hard. Let's put it like this. Now the Arizona is coming this way, so he can get torpedoes towards the Arizona and then maybe engage the Gneisenau. Now, if he could start a fire on the Arizona right now and then get a flooding, then again, it's just... the time wouldn't last for the flooding, right? It's just not enough time. It comes down to this. And he didn't get a fire anyway. He also gave his position away, so the Arizona will now most likely watch. But I guess it was worth a shot. Now he's going for the Gneisenau. Maybe he could have torpedoed the Gneisenau instead to get a secure kill and give him just a tiny bit more breathing room. Because, you know, even though he can farm an AFK Gneisenau right now, he just can't sink him fast enough to stop the bleed. And with this, the enemy team wins. Oh well, here we are with the results, and Jimijaz managed to get 2029 base experience, and that's more than anybody on the winning team. So even though he lost, he made more experience than anyone on the winning team. Yeah, pretty nicely done, but it just wasn't enough. Now, he didn't get any achievements, but he scored 110,000 points of damage, he sunk 3 enemies, he downed 30 planes, he managed 3 solo caps, and he still lost, because, I don't know, his team just spontaneously combusted in the north. Well, you win some, you lose some. It was a nice replay. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I'll see you guys next time.